Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about the recently debuted Lifetime original movie, Killer Advice. Now you could probably guess by looking at me that Lifetime movies aren't necessarily my go-to genre. That's fine, I'm not exactly their target audience either. That being said, there is some interesting stuff we can talk about in Killer Advice. A lot of this was brought to my attention when I got to sit down with the star of the movie, Kate Watson. If you haven't seen that interview, definitely check it out. She has a really interesting story on her career path, and she gives some great insight onto how this movie and similar movies are tackled. Killer Advice follows Beth, played by Watson. Beth is attacked in the beginning of the movie. That, coupled with already mounting pressure from her own work, her husband's stressful career, and a divide between her and her daughter, they're all mounting on her. Beth seeks out help in the form of therapy. She goes to a practice on her best friend's recommendation. While there, she ends up meeting a woman that wasn't the one she went to see originally, but this woman draws her in as a friend. Marcia is played menacingly by Meredith Thomas. She's a lot more connected to Beth than appears at first glance. The movie focuses mainly on Beth and Marcia. This gives Watson and Thomas a lot of time to go head-to-head. They both play their roles pretty well, even though their characters' connection is a bit loose. I was waiting for something more in the way of why certain things unfolded the way they did that never really came. The loose plot could have been tightened up a bit, even with the limited screen time. The big thing that rubbed me the wrong way is, as menacing as Thomas' performance was, I was never really invested into the why of it all. Also, given the limited amount of time and budget, I thought everything between Beth and her daughter, Jess, played well by Gigi Gustin, could have been moved aside for more focus on the rivalry. I understand the mother-daughter relationship was weighing on the character, and that may have taken away some of her emotional depth. And maybe I'm thinking too practically on story without having any, because I don't have any children of my own. It just seems, with one less wrinkle, some extra attention could have been given to other story threads. The parts of the movie I focused on were primarily the performances. Mainly, I was watching the movie to prep for my interview with the star, Kate Watson, but it did get me thinking on how these movies come to be. Lifetime, Hallmark, Sci-Fi, the programming on CW, the list really does go on. All of these networks, and many more, have their own distinct stamp on how things are done. All of these networks use a wide array of talent to get their projects going, so it isn't one person's vision. My conversation with Miss Watson put the pieces into place. I'm not going to rehash the entire conversation. You can go and listen to it, and you should. But I do want to touch on some things that are relevant to covering Killer Advice as a movie. Killer Advice was made quickly. I wasn't given a definitive timeline, but fast really seemed to mean fast. The cast could get a call the night before and handed a script on the day that they needed to, not just memorize the lines, but get into the right headspace for their characters. Watson has to jump through some serious emotional hoops in the movie, and with a runtime of right around 90 minutes, considerations taken for commercials even, that doesn't give her a lot of time to find her character in that moment. There's also very little time for multiple takes. That makes Killer Advice more like a play than a movie, as far as the actors are concerned anyway. They have to hit their mark, hit their lines, and convey their emotions in one shot before moving quickly on to the next. That next shot likely doesn't follow sequentially in the movie, so staying in that headspace isn't always an option. It's also interesting to note that this was one of the first productions given the green light during the COVID lockdowns. A lot of extra hurdles were put in place for the safety of cast and crew. These necessary precautions could be a burden on time and finances. Or were a burden, I don't even know why I said could be. This is a smaller movie with a relatively small cast and limited locations. That definitely helped given the situation. With a budget of just $600,000, putting more into unforeseen expenses was a massive hit to that budget. Killer Advice debuted on Lifetime about a week ago. You can check out your listings to see when it's playing again as they're re-airing it, but you can also get it through services like Hulu with Live TV. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. We have a lot more interviews and a lot more original movie coverage coming your way. Make sure you listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week wherever you get your podcasts. So Wizard Podcast can also be found on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You get multiple monthly bonus shows. SoWizardPodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, merchandise, and more. Thanks again.